Lars Larson Show. It's a pleasure to be with you on a Wednesday evening, and a real pleasure to know that maybe this whole impeachment trial will be over by the end of the week, because then Ann Coulter, my friend Ann Coulter, can get back to her real work. You said the tedium of watching, what are we calling, question time today, where questions, and poor John Roberts has to sit. Believe me, I don't have that much sympathy for Roberts. He's been a huge disappointment. But relegating him to sitting behind a desk and sitting upright and no coffee, and he has to read the questions for the senators to answer. It's not exactly the highest ranking job in the world, is it?
Oh, well, it could be. It's just that this is a stupid impeachment. They're saying the same things over and over and over again. You can get the Cliff Notes version in my last book, Resistance is Futile. You know, people keep asking me if I'm writing another book. No, I've really said it all for everything. I mean, the last three big books, particularly for what is important and what's going on right now. Adios America on immigration, which is what Trump and ran and won on. In Trump We Trust, all of the great things about Trump, the halcyon days, back when he was against pointless wars and against the establishment Republicans, and oh boy, were they against him. And of course, for pedal to the metal on immigration enforcement and helping Americans. And then Resistance is Futile. After my close study of MSNBC, 18 hours a day, but it hasn't changed. It's Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. It's just going to be the same thing day in, day out. So no, actually, I've been watching very little of this impeachment nonsense, which is why I've been able to do more reading and could catch up on this story, at least for many of your listeners. I mean, I saw the headlines last week, all the media hysteria over the gun rally in Richmond, Virginia, which, of course, as they always are, incredibly peaceful. It was wherever they were rallying was cleaner when they left than when they showed up. But I was looking back. I didn't put this in my column. But I was looking back at some other times that the left has gone crazy every time people, Second Amendment supporters, get together to have a rally. This has been going on forever, Lars Larson.
Yeah.
And as we have discussed, I mean, it makes the larger point, and I think particularly with the comparison to the Caribbean Day Parade in New York, I'll put a pin in that, because what the overall point of the column is, the media lie to us all the time, and that's why they're so, and this is a good example of it, it's a really good example of it, and that's why they are so hysterical about the Internet. They keep demanding that people be thrown off. I mean, poor VDare, which is just an immigration website, they don't care what your policies, I mean, you can be a socialist, you could be Bernie Sanders 2016. If you're for, restricting immigration, VDare will publish you.
Well, and Ann,
and they're being thrown off like every social media. It's crazy.
Well,
it has nothing to do with any, hot button issues, unless immigration, the same position Barbara Boxer and Di-Fi had not very long ago, the same position Obama and Harry Reid had not very long ago, unless that's suddenly become a white nationalist position. In any event, you see these just constant articles about, Mark Zuckerberg, he's allowing Russia to interfere with our election, the Russian interference. Well, they're furious with Zuckerberg because he says, I'm not going to censor political ads.
Right.
You got, do what you want. Have competing, what the reason we have free speech. You counter speech with other speech. And also Facebook is pretty big. It would be a little tricky. Any kind of, censorship for false ads. Well, we know what that means. We're going to throw all the conservatives off.
Sure.
Well, okay, on this one point, to his credit, Zuckerberg says, I'm not going to do that. And the New York Times, the rest of them, they're just hysterical. Now, why? This is the gun rights rally versus the Caribbean Day Parade. I happen to remember that there's always a lot of violence at the Caribbean Day Parade in Crown Heights here in New York. And so I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it was like, I'm sorry. I mean, it's a horrible thing when people get stabbed, shot, and die. But to read the list, it's just it's kind of hilarious.
You provided this list.
It's like, and just did it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but it was like 2003, man fatally shot, another one stabbed in the neck. 05, man shot, killed along the parade route. And as you said, people will find it indelicate, but then much of what Ann Coulter does is indelicate, and God bless her for it, that comparing what happened at the one Virginia rally in Charlottesville, which I think was engineered by the local authorities to a large extent by causing two big crowds to collide with each other, would have been a banner year for safety at the Caribbean Day Parade in New York City.
Yes, but the media, it's this closed ecosystem, and they simply have a policy. If a crime is committed by a black person, I don't think we have to report that. No, let's just not say. I mean, it's comical that they will not report these things. I spent a lot of time on Nexus looking up the articles, and it was just hilarious. Year after year, these stabbings, shootings. There was an aide to the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, a few years ago. He was shot in the head at the Caribbean Day Parade. Shot in the head, died 8 days later. I didn't know about it until I looked it up on Wikipedia. And yet, do we get headlines like we did for this utterly peaceful gun rights rally in Virginia, which was all city bracing for gun rights rally, city on edge as gun activists come to town. Why is there never a headline, city on edge in anticipation of Caribbean Day Parade?
Well, and
I never see
Annie,
that.
I love the point you made that the FBI did this arrest of these three white guys and said they're white supremacists. And I go, well, I don't know what that is. I mean, I know what it is, but how do you determine
neo-Nazis?
Neo-Nazis. And
but
one of them
nothing to do with the rally.
And one of them, I didn't realize till I read your column, was a Canadian. I mean, he was an illegal alien from Canada.
Illegal alien. Yeah, this is the first time the New York Times has come out for, aggressive action against illegal aliens. No, but their headline was, on edge as neo-Nazis arrested before gun rights rally. So I'm reading their article thinking, wait a second, what do the neo-Nazis have to do with the gun rights people? It turns out, Lars Larson, absolutely nothing. As if you get down to paragraph 22.
Oh no! You pointed out in your column they had a conversation about maybe going to the rally, but that was their only connection. So why don't we have every New York Times article that says New York Times reader and bank robber robs Manhattan Bank? Because you could say, well, he reads the New York Times, so that's significant. Or he discussed going to the flower show or the fashion week in Manhattan. You say and I noticed the television networks are doing the same thing. They'll run headlines that say, as Trump signs trade bill, Senate continues question, and they'll conflate different things together in these crawls on the screen.
As if they are related. Yes. Yes,
and
there was no connection between the, quote, neo-Nazis. By the way, they weren't arrested for being neo-Nazis. I don't know, maybe the FBI has something on them being neo-Nazis. But of the 4 charges against these 3 guys, of the 4 charges, 3 of them have to do with the illegal aliens' immigration status. And one was for intent to commit a crime with a firearm, so an as-yet uncommitted crime and intent. I'm not saying you shouldn't be arrested for that, but, that's the big, and the arrest occurred with these 3 guys who have nothing to do with the gun rally other than law enforcement, alleging that they had intended, they had discussed attending the gun rights rally. It was a week earlier. It was in Maryland. It had nothing to do with the gun rally. This is how the media reports things. They lie. They're just so happy when there's, a white guy was arrested. That'll be billboarded all over, and let's connect it to some other policy we're against, like gun rights. This is why look, I'm upset about a lot of the censorship on social media. Milo Yiannopoulos being thrown off, Gavin McInnes being thrown off, the persecution of this immigration website VDare, which I highly recommend. You should go there. It has great stuff. But oh my gosh, they're better than the New York Times, ABC, NBC, CBS.
And it's a great column. It was a wonderful read. And, of course, her book, In Trump We Trust, A Pluribus Awesome and Resistance is Futile. It's a pleasure to have you on, as always, Ann. Thanks very much.
Good to talk to you, Lars. Bye-bye.
Nice to talk to you as well. And a reminder to self, don't go to the Caribbean Day Parade in Crown Heights in New York City because it's a bad idea. You could end up very badly hurt.